we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Good evening, crew. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass is my partner, as always, Mark Wages, the other captain on this here vessel. So, boy, did I have a good day. I was just telling my partner about it. Today was one of those days, people. Perfect day to talk about emotions because I was afforded an opportunity to work on mine all day. Early this morning, somewhere probably about 9 or 10. It would have been better if this had happened at 8, by the way, because I'm sure that it was already happening at 8, but we didn't find out until about 9 or 10. A neighbor called and said, you have a geyser of water spraying from your house way up in the air. And yeah, so I went outside and we most assuredly did have a huge geyser, and it is super cold out there, right? It's the kind of cold that obviously can freeze, because that's what I was telling Mark. It actually broke a fitting that was made of brass, snapped it in two, right? So that's Mother Nature having her way with metal. It was
it's not easy to do either, is it?
No, it really isn't, right? As I was saying, I work with brass a lot because, believe it or not, a lot of watches are made of brass, and it's although it's soft by metal standards, right? It's not. The fact that it could be blown in half kind of blew my mind. It really did. But so I was out there digging and covered in water in freezing temperatures. It was again an opportunity to work on my not losing my temper and flying off the handle. And you know something? Honestly, peeps, I did pretty well at it. I am somewhat impressed with myself. Sorry to toot my own horn, but it has to happen.
You're a lot more calm than what I figured you would be after something like that.
Yeah, no, it really was. I'm pretty pleased with how it went down, because I had the potential to go completely nuts. I mean, that was definitely there, but it doesn't pay off, and I'm kind of getting that together now. So, okay, a couple of things before we get going, because some of them are just, one's important and the other is just downright funny. So here we go. I got some, we get a lot of emails, and some of them are awesome and some of them are downright silly. But every once in a while I will come across one that I just absolutely have to share with you, because it doesn't, won't do any justice if I don't. So I get an email today from, this is a gentleman. I won't say his name. Oh, and I like to say his name, but I'm not going to say his name. This gentleman had wanted to tell me that myself and Mark are doing really, really tremendous work here, which I thought was really kind. You know what I mean? I like that. That was a pretty kind thing to say. However, he then went on to say, but, which there's always a but. I do have one problem with what you've been doing. And that is your advice is awesome. And I really do believe that you guys are helping people get sober. But I was watching the other night and you actually advised people to hold in emotions and bottle them up. Yeah.
What?
he doesn't believe that that's a good way to, I'm guessing that he popped in for about 5 seconds and left. Because you know how a couple of times in the show 2 days ago, I said, so make sure you just bottle that stuff up, keep it inside, right? Because that's when good things happen.
Being sarcastic.
Apparently he only caught that part of it. And he really believed I was advising the crew to bottle up their emotions. So if you're watching, I assure you, I don't want anyone bottling up their emotions. And I'll even touch on that a little bit later. The other one that I really want to address was somebody that was not happy with with how much I say that you need to own your past. Doesn't think it's a productive thing, and would like me to explain why I find that such an important thing. Why am I always beating that drum? So I was going to shoot this dude an email, also a guy. I was going to shoot this dude an email and tell him, the reasoning behind this. But I figured maybe some other people are thinking that. So why don't I just address it on the boat before we get rolling today? So here's the reason I do that, right? Why is it so important that we have you own your past? Because there are two options, right? When you start looking at your drug use and your past, there are only two options. In one of those options, you're a victim. In the other option, you're taking control of your life. You follow me? Okay. So you only got a couple of different, there's column A or there's column B, door number 1 or door number 2. I am of the firm belief that if you believe the reason that you're addicted to drugs is because you're a victim, 5 years from now, we'll still be here on the boat. You come on back. We'll try to help you then, right? Because you're just going to keep using. You're going to keep using. It's victimhood is a license to get high. And we don't encourage it. We encourage people to step up to the plate and say, you know what? I did that. I did that. I'm the cause of what happened to me. Whether you realize it or not, that's really empowering. It really is. Once you say, I am not a victim, good things happen. And hey, Trish, I've never really wanted to come out and say the victim word. I kind of thought it could go without being said, but apparently it couldn't. So here we are having the discussion. We don't want you to be victims. We don't want you to be victims. So yeah, are there times where people have done things to really help somebody along the way in terms of becoming a drug addict? Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. If you were badly abused as a child and you have used drugs to try to get rid of that memory or deal with that memory, obviously there are people who had a hand in your drug use, right? That said, it's still your drug use. I've grown a hair. It's right in front of my eye. How annoying is that? Thank you. Came right off the nose. Right? Isn't that awful? Okay. So let's get into this whole emotions thing. When you start listing emotions, right? I can list about 105 of them. It's insane how many emotions, it's funny too, because if you want to do like a dive on it, and if you just type in emotions, right? Watch how many, one will say the 4 emotions, the 6 emotions, the 27 emotions, the 38, the number just keeps getting higher and higher, the more you go down. When I was incarcerated, I read a book that was written by a guy named Paul Ekman, and he wrote it in the 70s. So granted, it wasn't really cutting edge stuff. However, I had an opportunity to read it, and it was not always easy to get books that were right in the wheelhouse of what I was trying to learn. But Paul Ekman came up with 6 emotions, and he called it the wheel of emotions, very much like the wheel of color, right? If you mix 2 colors, and I'm not going to tell you which ones because I never do this right, but if you mix 2 colors, you get a different color, right? Mark, if you want to spit out
some that you, but I honestly, I never get them
Yeah,
right.
yellow and blue make green.
See that?
Red and blue makes purple.
See that?
So yeah, I worked in printing, so I did a lot of that.
Yeah, I figured you were a good bet.
Magenta, CMYK is what we called it. Cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. You can make any color with those 4 colors.
So you only need 4 of them?
You only need 4 of them. You can make any color, any kind of hue you want. It's about the size of the dot on your bowl or on your lid.
Really?
Yep. It's called process printing, what they call it. So yeah, it's pretty
beautiful.
Cool. Pretty cool stuff.
So this is a very similar kind of concept. If you take the 6 basic emotions, but you mix a few of them together, right? You mix 2 emotions together, you're going to get a 3rd emotion, and it's going to be one of the smaller emotions, one that you probably don't have to spend a great deal of time trying to work through. And Ekman's 6 were happiness, sadness, fear, disgust, anger, and surprise, right? Now, if you start mixing those 6 together, you can come up with amusement, contempt, contentment, embarrassment, excitement, guilt, pride, relief, satisfaction, and shame. Now, guilt and shame are obviously emotions that we deal with quite a bit as addicts. But the 6 basic Paul Ekman wheel of emotions are going to be the ones we talk about, because we could be here for 6 weeks breaking down all of the different emotions and talking about them one at a time. And there's really not much point, because no matter what the emotion is, the way you deal with it is almost exactly the same, right? How do you cope with these things? Well, it doesn't really matter what emotion you're talking about. I mean, there are slight variations, but the techniques are usually the same, whether you're dealing with happiness, sadness, whatever. Before we talk about them, hey, Major, good to see you. There are basically 2 flavors of emotion, right? And you got the 6 types, you got all but emotions come to us 2 different ways. Something happens to us in the moment, right? Right now, Mark says, you know what? You're looking like you put a little weight on, that kind of thing, right before we go live. And I think, damn, it's not a very nice thing to say. And now my brain starts to create emotions, right? And if I don't get them out quickly, then those emotions might fester during the 1 hour. And by the time this is over, I'm going to be salty, right? Those are emotions that we deal with in the now. These are things that happen each day, thousands of times a day, that we react to very often with different emotions. Then there's the other kind of emotions, and these come from memories, right? Emotions that come from memories, probably the most dangerous type for, especially for people who are addicted to substances. And the memory emotions, in my humble opinion, the memory emotions kick our can because we didn't deal with them the first time around. I wholeheartedly believe that the reason that those memories come back and slap you, because I've had some ugly things happen to me that I don't revisit, and I don't go back to them. And they never, it's not one of those things that if I sit and I've got nothing to do, or I can't go to sleep, that this awful memory is going to drag me up and start, beating me around. However, I have a lot of other memories that do that to me. And I think the difference between the 2 is that the memories that are ugly but recent, like after I got sober, people, I was still in prison. So there's some PTSD and some other ugly stuff that happened after I got sober. I've seen people get killed and other stuff that was no fun. But I started to have tools, right? I started to understand the basic concept of, okay, I'm not going to bottle this crap up. Right? I'm not going to jam this inside, because truthfully, it's not really going to help me a whole lot. Right? It's one of those things that if you get figured out quickly, you've got a much better chance of not relapsing. If you let these things run wild, then the ants, the automatic negative thoughts, which are tied viciously to our emotions, are going to start beating the ever-loving you-know-what out of you. Right? So the first emotion we were talking about in Paul Ekman's 6 is happiness. Got to be the emotion that most people spend the most time writing books about, talking about, everything else. We have come to believe as a society. What do we got, Mike?
I just want you to read that comment. I'll read it to
Which
you. I'll
one?
read it to you. I got it on the screen.
Okay.
Says no, it's from Matthew. He said, "No, I'm not afraid to say it. That's why we're all here. I lost and surrendered to my craving between losing my wife, daughter, and now possibly 2 calves. Sometimes this whiskey tastes like spring water."
You know what?
Then he asked
You
us not
got
to kick him out. We're not kicking you out, man.
we don't
Not,
we
we
don't
don't
kick
do that.
people out, Matthew.
We got our
We
arms
don't
open, brother. That's
Yeah, we don't kick people out, bud. It's all good. 2 calves also. This is I hate to do this to you, bud, but I'm gonna, because it's just that it's not often that we have a teaching moment, right? So I love you, bud. I really do. And I know that you're gonna get sober. Honestly. Matthew and I have conversed. This is something that we've been working on, and I've got faith in him. We're not kicking you out, bud. Don't worry about that. So right now, Matthew is really stressed out, lost his wife, lost his kids, right? John, thank you. Has he really lost them? And how many times have we said, you know what, they're gone. This is it. There are people on the boat who, over the course of the last year, have told me no less than 30 times that the wife is never coming back. When we're in the moment, we tend to not look past the moment. Moment emotions freeze you in place, right? You can never look at the big picture because you get stuck in the feeling that you're feeling right then. And as addicts, we want that turned off more than anything. We want out of that pain that we're feeling right then and right there. There's 2 ways you can do that. One of them is you call the people on that list that we talked about the other day, right? Call your 5. Get somebody on the phone and say, here's why I'm hurting, right? This happened. I think she's going to be gone. And you know what? Taking the kids, by the way, I got a couple calves that may have just died. And this is really working me over. I really kind of feel like drinking. We drink or we do drugs because there is an emotion inside of us. And think of it as a fire, right? Our drug of choice puts that fire out. That's really what happens. It puts the fire out. Unfortunately, we didn't deal with the fire, right? We didn't deal with the emotion. So the second type of emotion that I was talking about, the kind that comes from memories, the emotions that you didn't deal with when you should have, this one's going to come back on you, Matthew. It really is, because, treating it and treating this emotion with alcohol as the coping mechanism isn't going to resolve anything. And again, you know that. I'm not lecturing. Just using you as an example. We all do this. Everybody, right? And the reason that we don't kick you out is because there's nobody here that hasn't done that, right? This is, it's kind of our defining characteristic. We get uncomfortable. We can't cope with it. We use a drug to get through it. The training that has to happen is you have to get to a point where you say, when I start hurting, 2 calls not going to market a lot of money, especially right now. 2 calves not going to market. I believe that. Right. And times are tough and they're ugly right now. There's no question.
Yep.
There's no question. Here's what I would say. And again, Matthew, the only reason we're doing this is because I love you and I'm not picking on you. It's just you're talking and I'm talking. So you kind of are in the wheelhouse in terms of subject, right? So those 2 calves don't go to market. And that's a lot of money that's lost, right? Does not help your financial situation. Doesn't help your life in any way, shape, or form. Did it get better when you drank that whiskey? Right? Truthfully, did it get better? No. You were able to turn off the emotion of anger, fear, and all the combinations of those that bring on you feeling awful. Now, you were able to turn off the feeling awful by put me on blast, brother. You were able to turn off the emotion because you got loaded. But getting loaded did nothing to get more money back into you. In fact, what are you, about $16 in the hole because you bought a bottle of whiskey? So if the calves, not having the calves and that money is an issue, 16 more thrown that way probably didn't do a whole lot of good. And again, this is what we do. We want the emotion turned off. There are 2 ways to do it. One is the bottle, right? Or the needle or whatever. I think I've told this story 100 times on the boat, but if you're brand new here, you may be the first time that you've heard it. I was getting high once, or I don't know, getting well once with heroin. And a guy said to me, I got a question for you. I said, what? He goes, what does the needle take away for you? I said, what? He's like, come on, everybody has something that they need to take away, because the needle has never given anything to anybody. Booze has never given anything to anybody. So the question becomes, what is it taking away? Well, today it's pretty obvious, isn't it? I mean, you just articulated exactly why, and you wanted those things taken away. And the booze really knocked the edge off of it. If we had the same conversation where you came and said, my wife's going to take off, these 2 cabs aren't going to market, which means I'm going to take a real hit financially. Had you done that before you went and bought booze, you'd be in a better situation. And one of the most important things that would happen is you would be in a position where you're actually stronger than when you started, right? That's the gift that keeps on giving. It doesn't take 50 of these times for you to go, good God, that's all I had to do. When the light bulb goes on and you go, wow, I just did not get high. I just didn't get drunk. I had something that really started, I was on the edge. This is something that any other time in my life I would have gone and got high, but I didn't. The light bulb goes on and you go, good God, why didn't I? Well, I didn't because I reached out and I called Mark, or I reached out and I called this person. I didn't allow this to sit inside me. I got it out. If it sits inside you, it's a rampant fire and you're going to find a way to put it out. You either let it get into the sunlight or you're going to end up drinking. I had to find a way to deal with my anxiety and not turn to painkillers. Been a long road, but I can say I don't want to turn to them as soon as I get that feeling of anxiety. That's huge, right? That's huge. Anxiety is one of the toughest of all of them, right? Honestly, because there are thoughts that we get, automatic negative thoughts that we want to turn off. Anxiety actually messes with your body, right? I mean, there are physical attributes to anxiety. It's not just an emotion. Your heart starts to race, right? Your palms start to sweat. Your breathing changes. All of those things happen. Anxiety is a tough one. If you are figuring out how to do that without grabbing the pain meds, my hat is off to you. God bless you. That's awesome. And each time you do it, each time you don't get high, right? Each time you pull that off, really, really good things happen. You're getting closer to the day where you're solid, right? I'll tell you right now, how happy was I this morning in freezing weather when that water started spraying from my house into the street, right? Looked like Old Faithful. There was a time in my life where I would have had to get high to deal with that.
Yep.
I promise you. There was a time in my life where I wouldn't have gone out to turn the water off before I got high, right? Ain't no way. I didn't have any coping mechanism at all. Sorry, just reading something real quick. Yeah. But we're never going to kick you out, bud. And we're not mad at you either. I mean, this is something everybody here, another perfect opportunity.
I'm glad he just spoke up. Period.
Yeah, absolutely. You know why we're not mad at you, right? Why we're not mad at you is the reason that the lifeboat works. Go somewhere else and explain this to somebody. Say, you know what? Things got bad, and so I decided to drink a bottle of booze. They're going to go, well, it was a stupid thing to do. Everybody here understands. You don't have to try to articulate why you did what you did, because we've all done it. Might not have been booze, right? But every one of us has had something come up where we go, you know what? The coping mechanism today is going to be a gram, or the coping mechanism today is going to be a bottle, or whatever the case may be. And as my friend, or the guy that I was using with, as he said, what did it take away? So today it took away anxiety. It took away fear, right? I mean, you're in fear that with both of those calves not paying you, you're not going to be in a financial situation where you can take care of yourself, right? That causes fear. It's legit fear, by the way. And fear comes in multiple, there are two kinds of fears too. There is legitimate fear, right? Things you absolutely have a right to be scared of. Then there's the stuff that doesn't make any sense at all. right? There are people who drink themselves to death because they're not sure whether or not their boss is going to give them a raise 2 years from now.
Yeah.
Okay. That is irrational fear. Doesn't do any good. It's not getting you anywhere.
Patrick, comment. That's pretty
I'm too full of shame to do anything anymore. Well, you know something? Shame is an ugly emotion.
Yep.
It absolutely is. It's an ugly emotion. However, I am of the firm belief that once shame starts running rampant on you, that you're close. For real. You're close. If you're feeling the shame, it's because you know you're in a place that you're not supposed to be. You know? You're in a place that you're not supposed to be. And the shame and the guilt, those are two emotions that you don't want to live your entire life with. But as an addict, if those things are slapping you around, then you know exactly what they're telling you, right? Here's the deal, my friend. You're not to blame. I'm going to get so many emails that tell me I'm a loser for saying that. I am. I'm going to get lit up for this. I'm going to get lit up for this. But it's the truth.
Let's do it. Put it out
It's
there.
the truth. You're not to blame. You're no more to blame than somebody that says, I got to go get insulin. Can you imagine us saying to them, well, you should feel guilty as hell that you got to go get that insulin? You know, nice blood sugar boy. You know, you're weak as hell. I can't believe this, you know, and you say, well, it's different. No, it's not. No, it's not. Because diabetes comes two ways, right? Some people eat themselves and drink themselves to diabetes. They're not born with it. So bad decisions that they make cause them to get a disease, just like bad decisions we make cause us to fall into disease. Why is Peter Pan always flying? He never lands. Never lands. Ba-dum-bump. Seventh, so glad you're back. Truthfully, so glad you're back. So
that's a real fear, though, Patrick. He dropped another comment there. Fear withdrawals are heavy. That's a real fear. It truly is.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Patrick, I spent decades continuing to use because of the fear of withdrawals. And the really heinous thing is that had somebody got to me 15 years in and said, I promise you, I can show you a way to get clean without you getting sick, I promise you I'd have done it, right? I promise you I would have done it, because the only thing keeping me from going was the fear of what, 7 or 8 days. And I mean, 7 or 8 days of physical torture, and then about 30 days of not sleeping. You know, the withdrawal process of on opiates really is about a 32-day run.
Yeah,
right. The real hard one where you're vomiting and all of that, that's about a week. But, you know, for a good solid month, you're not getting any sleeping done, and it's tough to link two thoughts together. But I'm telling you right now that you don't have to go through that. You don't. I mean, there's actually several ways now that you can get treatment without doing that, right? There's the buprenorphine route, where they start you at 16 milligrams. And if it takes a month to 2 months to take you from 16 milligrams down to nothing, you're not going to get sick. By the way, fam, 7 milligrams today. 7. So I'm on my way down.
Baby. Heck yeah.
Patrick says, me too. Yeah. You don't need to get sick. You don't need to get sick. Send me a damn email with your phone number on it, right? For real. I believe Patrick and I tried this once, and we missed each other. Yeah. No, we missed the hookup. I think maybe even twice. Send me a phone number. I will call you tonight, and I will walk you through exactly what you need to do and how that can be done, because you don't need to hurt.
You don't have to.
So the one method is the buprenorphine method, right? We're going to coat your receptors so that your brain thinks that you've done dope. So you're not going to go through any of the emotional or any of the physical, right? That's possible. The other route is, and in most places in America, you can go do this now because of how many people that are overdosing. Most places have a spin dry, right? I'll catch crap for saying spin dry too, but it is exactly what it is, right? You're going to go in and say, I am addicted to what? Heroin, right? Okay, what's your habit? I'm doing about 3 grams a day. Zen-Wen, good to have you back. I love it when Zen-Wen's here. Yeah, I'm doing about 3 or 4 grams a day. They take you in, you do intake. And by the way, you can go loaded, so you don't have to feel sick at any point, right? Go in there loaded. And then what they're going to do is...
you're in the right place, Matthew.
You are in the right place. Shut up. Sorry. I don't feel like I should be here. I'm not in the right frame of mind to be sober enough around y'all. Thank you. Well, you know what?
Sit back
If
and
you
listen.
can't, yeah, if you can't, be interacting, sit back and listen. We probably won't mention you again, but you might just hear something today that's going to change you. So what they do then, Patrick, is they're going to come out with lorazepam, right? Or they're going to come out with, that's usually what they start with, right? Which is Ativan. And they're going to start you on a lot of it, like 5-6 milligrams. And if you know anything about that drug, it's usually in half milligrams or quarter milligrams. They're going to give you a crap load of it because what they're going to do is keep you unconscious. For real. They're going to keep you unconscious through the worst of the withdrawals. The first 7 days, what they do is about twice a day, they let you get just to the point where you're starting to get conscious, at which point they're going to take you to the bathroom, make sure you do your business, and then they're going to bring you back and dope you up again. And they're going to knock you out. And you can get through the first 7 days, which is hell on earth, right? Get through that part of it. Now, in order to do that, and they'll do it for free in almost everywhere. However, you basically got to stick around after that, right? Once you go through the spin dry, they're going to want you for about another 20 days. However, being sober, it's probably worth 25 days of your life. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You know what I gave up to get sober? 10 years. 10 years. I had the spin dry program courtesy of the federal government and the Bureau of Prisons.
And if you do a little planning ahead, you can plan that out to where you can get there and not really affect your life, your job.
No, you definitely, you absolutely can plan
that
it.
stuff out.
I've talked to so many people who are exactly where you're at. You're not unique in continuing to use because you don't want to hurt. Oh, here we go. This is always fun. Addiction is not a disease. That's BS. Just own who you are. Okay, my friend, you're absolutely right in that you need to own who you are. Do a little research on what makes a disease a disease. There are 3 characteristics, right? And of those 3 characteristics, the one that for the longest time they couldn't document is that there is a test for the disease, right? There has to be symptoms. There's 3 that you have to highlight. But the one that's never been there is you have to be able to test 2 people, not know one of them has it, and say, that's the cat that has it. A great example is fibromyalgia, right? Everybody knows somebody that has fibromyalgia, and it's hell. It's absolute hell. You can't tell me it doesn't exist. I've watched people go through it. However, it's not a disease. And it's not a disease because up to this point, there is no way to test if somebody has it or somebody doesn't. There is a test right now. You go in and get a PET scan done, send 25 people in there, 2 of them who are drug addicts, and they're going to pull both of those PET scans up and go, these 2
are drug addicts.
Here are the drug addicts.
It's your brain.
So once that process got into this, it absolutely became a disease. I mean, it always had been, but now there's no longer any argument. I understand what you're trying to say. You don't want to see anybody that gets a free pass, right? You want everybody to pay really hard, and that's cool. I get that. I'm a big proponent of telling people they need to own their past. I mean, 100%. Seriously, if you've ever been here before, I beat the hell out of that concept, owning it. But it's a disease. And if you don't think it is, go and do a little research. You know what I mean? And I'm not being mean, but so many people fire that off from the hip based on nothing but opinion, right? And it's really not helping all of the people out there that have that disease, right? You're not doing a lot to help those cats. So I'm not mad at you, but do a little research. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan of Ferraris. I like looking at pictures of them. But if somebody started talking to me about what the timing on the belt is or something like that, I'm not going to spit something out, right? Because I don't know anything about it. No offense, but that's where you're at on this one.
Yep.
Yeah, Patrick, please send me an email.
Yep. And again, guys, we respect that everybody can have their own opinion. I mean,
absolutely.
Honestly, if you don't think it's a disease, fine. We're gonna tell you why we think it's not or why we think it is. But
well, at this point, it's documentable.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
We can just say it. I mean, you're gonna have to show us where we're wrong, and I don't think that's possible. But
no, it isn't
not
anymore.
On that
and you know
subject,
something?
So.
No, for the longest time, we all dealt with this. Anybody that was trying to help people get sober, it was a difficult thing because we all believed that it was a disease. However, since it could not be tested, right? Since you could not design, and there's about 1,000 different things you can do to the body, right, to test. Unfortunately, not one of them will tell you that fibromyalgia, is going on in somebody's body.
Yep.
What if it's needed? What is needed? I'm confused, bud.
Yeah. I don't understand that either. Yeah.
Yeah. What if it's needed? Maybe he means the drugs. There are, if that's where you're going with it, there are definitely drugs that people need to take, right? There absolutely is. And if you need to take a drug, we've never badmouthed that.
Yep.
If you break your thigh today, I'm not going to recommend aspirin, right? You break your femur, I'm definitely going to recommend an opiate, and a heavy one, right? Because there's a reason we have opiate receptors in our brain, and it's so that we never have to deal with torture, right? There are definitely people who have to take medication. There are people.
He said addiction. That's what he's talking about. What if addiction is needed? I think the wording there should have been dependence on something that you need, because there are drugs like that every day, all day long.
Oh, sure.
There's
sure.
If you, like I use the example of Cymbalta that I was on. I couldn't just quit taking that. The second that I did, I would get sick. I had withdrawals, but not withdrawals how you guys think that a withdrawal would be off an opiate. It's not an opiate.
Right.
It's a different thing. So yes, there are things out there, and everything has its own side effect, including opiates. And everybody.
Well, yeah, and there are people who have to be on benzodiazepines for the rest of their life. It's not an option, right? We don't want those people to quit. It would be a very bad thing. They need that. Ilea says, I've never viewed addiction as a disease. I always viewed it as a mental illness. I think it's both, hon.
Yeah, I think it kind of is. Now
because
we can show that.
Yeah, because of the fact that there is a test that can, we can take a picture of your brain and a picture of my.
I might
brain.
have one, Tommy. I'll see if I can't find it, and I'll show it.
Okay, there. If you take brain scans of an addict's brain, there is a section of the brain that is super active, and there's one that isn't active at all. In both cases, it should be the other way around, right? The part that is inactive should be normally active, and the part that is hyperactive should be, normal. And this is across the board. This is in every single person who's addicted. And I don't mean when you go in high, right? You can test this when a person is sober. You can test it when they're on dope, whatever the case may be. I definitely think it's a disease of the mind. And there are plenty of diseases of the mind, right? It's not, a mental illness doesn't necessarily preclude something from being a disease, right? At all, right? The two can definitely coexist. Again, if you look at, people, and I have no problem with people that go with that opinion. I really don't. But the fact of the matter is that now it's testable, right? So the people that used to, and boy, we had people, I'm sorry. Heather Hatch says, I have to take gabapentin for fibromyalgia. And I go through withdrawals similar to going off narcotics if I don't take it every day. And there's truth to that, right? Neurontin was the name brand. And so gabapentin is the generic of Neurontin. And depending on the dosage that they put you on, at one point I was taking about 3,600 milligrams of that a day in the federal system. And I was on drugs at this point. I wasn't taking this because I needed it. I was taking it because I wanted it. And I would sell some off as a way to come up with money to do this or to do that, whatever. And they came in and did a cell search and found a couple of pills in my pocket, which I absolutely should not have had. And I quit cold turkey. I didn't have an option. I've done many drugs. I've cooked meth in my younger days even. I don't use meth now because I don't want to. See what I mean? Well, here's the deal. You may not be an addict, right? So take two people. Both of them live the exact same lifestyle, right? Both of them live in every single thing they do. They do the exact same thing. They put on about 100 pounds more than they should, right? Plain and simple, both of them. One of them all of a sudden ends up with diabetes. The other one doesn't. They did the exact same thing. In no way, shape, or form did they do anything different. One has the predestination, right? The precursor in the brain. you're a drug addict, whether you ever do drugs. If you're addicted to drugs, before you get high the first time, you're a drug addict, right? Now, if you never get high, it's never going to be an issue. But take the same illustration. Two guys go to college, party on dope every single day. Every day, they just go crazy. Same thing. They're doing heroin, right? They say, we got to get off this crap. We've been doing it a year and a half. The guy that's not a drug addict will quit doing it and then walk away. I don't mean he's not going to get sick. He's going to have to go through withdrawals. And when it's over, he'll go, good God, I'm never going to do that again. It was the worst. I was sick for a week and then his friend will already be back on the needle. One is a drug addict. One is not. So you, my friend, are obviously not a drug addict, which is good. Now, people who are not drug addicts can abuse drugs, right? There's a bunch of that goes on. But if you have if the illness is already in your brain, right? Because as I say, you could take a picture of a drug addict's brain, right, to test for them being a drug addict. You can take that same PET scan on someone that's never gotten high and say, boo, if you start going down that road, brother, you're going to get addicted. Here's the brain scan. Here's why.
There it is.
Did you just toss one up?
Yep. It's got all the.
We got about a.
I'm sure you can see that. I hope you can see that.
Well, it's got we have about a 30-second delay.
Okay. No, that's okay.
So I don't see it yet.
I was just going to.
But
no, it's.
I'm
there.
sure that I'm going to here.
It's on. Yeah, you'll see it. It's big.
Okay, so on the left, you've got the control. You understand the concept of the control, right? That is the normal, right? It's like in a double-blind test, the control is always going to be the placebo. It's going to be the normal. It's not going to be. So the brains on the left are showing normal people. Your brain, my friend, is the brain on the left. If your brain was the one on the right, then you would have got addicted to meth. It wouldn't have been productions. Whatever. Yes. So you're just not a drug addict, which is great.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome. The vast majority of us here are, right? I did heroin every single day for decades. Not because I dug it, because honestly, after a very brief period of time, I wanted off. It led me down awful roads. I robbed banks. Right. I went to federal prison. I did a lot of stuff that I'm not particularly proud of. And at the time, I would have been the first cat to say to you, it's not a disease. I partied because I partied, plain and simple, weak-minded. All of those things would have come out of my mouth because I did not believe that drug addiction was a disease. Didn't believe in any way, shape, or form. I didn't believe that there was any hereditary element to it. There is, right? That's also been proven. But all of these things, I do use drugs though. Good for you, bud. Get high. I'm not telling you that. I mean, go ahead and use all you want. You're not going to get addicted, right? Or you're addicted right now and you're just BSing us. I mean, that could be too. But yeah, there's a lot of people, we get people here that do drugs, but if you think you just snuck onto the lifeboat because there was a big laugh after that, I have the state et al. Telling me I'm an addict. I call BS. Well, you know what? You could probably, the state is telling you, so you got busted for something? Okay.
I think we've given that enough attention. We'll just move on.
You know what? I'm having a good time though.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're probably right. So the last thing I would leave you with, odd effects, is this. If the state's telling you you're an addict, this has very adversely affected your life. Right? So you can do the big smile, but drugs are running rampant on you if you're having problems with the law, right? And if the state's telling you you're a drug addict, there was obviously problems with the law.
Yeah, and again, we got it, brother. We got it. It's all good.
What's that?
Hey, Johnny wanted a wrench.
Oh, you know what? No, man. No, that's all good. Hey, the guy isn't disrespectful, right? He's not breaking any of the rules here on the boat. So,
well,
let
me.
Much as you might not agree with him, and he's on dope, right? We just admitted that, so we're not mad at him.
I'm not mad either. I'm just saying.
Peace, brother. Hey, I'm not mad at you, bud.
Well,
I'm not.
I'm not mad either. It's part of what we do here, and I think it helps people understand because we're not always going to agree. All of us won't. It's just not going to happen. It's just won't. But I do want to, Absolute Truth there has a good question there. If
What we got?
if we are addicted, does our brain always show it, whether we do drugs or not? That's
Absolutely.
If you look at that picture right there, it shows you. There's a control, which is the one that's not, and then you have an addict on the right, and that would be the ones that are using the drugs. So
The brain scan will show the addict whether or not they're high or whether or not they're sober.
Yep.
This is not something that just goes on. You don't only notice it, or if you could only test for it when someone was high, then it wouldn't be a disease. Truthfully, that would be, it would be a different animal altogether. They can test for this whether you're high or whether you've ever been high. You're going to have different activity in the brain versus someone that doesn't. It's just one of those things.
Wow. Jay Miller, that's a big deal right there.
What did he say?
Wow. No, Jay Miller was just talking to Leisure there. Says she, let me read the comment here. Says, I was
Brandon Taylor. Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate you, bud.
She says, Leisure, I was on 90 of Cymbalta and 10 of citalopram, and it caused me to down 1,000 milligrams of morphine and 60 pills of Klonopin.
Good God.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, whoa, back the train.
Jay Miller, we are lucky that you're still with
here.
us.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Klonopin.
That's
I don't know what citalopram, but if it ends in PRAM, it's going to be a benzo. So yeah, I'm not hip to that benzo.
Yeah, I've never heard of it either.
I don't know what that's generic for. I've never heard.
Survived. Did you OD, Jay Miller? I'm just curious. That's a lot of drugs you just doing yourself.
1,000 milligrams of morphine and 60 pills of Klonopin. Good God in heaven.
Overdosed. Man. Yeah, she overdosed, she said.
How could she not?
I know, but I'm just asking.
How could she? If you took that and didn't overdose, Keith Richards would be afraid of you.
Oh, it's an SSRI, she said. Yep.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I'm not familiar with that one at all.
Kind of like a Cymbalta, I would think. Kind of the same.
What did the Zen Buddhist say to the hot dog vendor? Make me one with everything. That's a good one, Seventh. I actually really dig that one.
Yep. Here's put Brandon's. You like that, guys? You guys like that little super chat thing that I pop up there like that?
Yeah, I dig it. I absolutely dig it. I think it's very, very cool.
How it kind of gives at the bottom, puts the amount under their icon.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. If you guys like that, let me know. It's pretty cool.
Chuck Norris says, I told myself numerous times I wasn't addicted. Numerous reality checks and bare walls later, I realized I was. Almost ruining a once-in-a-lifetime relationship made me fight like hell to stop using. Boy, I wish I could say the same thing, Chuck. The number of once-in-a-lifetime relationships I flushed down the toilet is absolutely astounding. I damaged a lot of really great people, through my nonstop use of drugs.
Cheeseburger from McDonald's. That's a good one. I like that. That's that one. I saw. Yeah, that's
is addiction hereditary? My twin brother has a drug and alcohol addiction. When we were growing up, I never did. My mom was a speed freak. Yes, there is a hereditary element to addiction. It is not cut and dry by any stretch, and it's something that is still being studied. Let's just put it this way. If your parents are addicted to drugs, one parent or two parents, if both of your parents are addicted to drugs, there's an excellent chance you're already a drug addict. Like my daughter is probably not going to use in her life because she saw what happened to mom and dad, and is a pretty intelligent kid. We really were we were the wrong parents for hereditary. Absolutely, it got a hereditary element. I
would also add to that when you're around somebody that's an addict like that, also there's an environmental thing that happens to you also. If you pair those together, it's either going to do what Tommy just said, it's going to push you away from it, or it might just suck you in. And for me, for cigarettes, it pushed me away. Both my parents smoked. I hated it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, both their parents smoke, and it draws them into it. They want to do it. So
Yeah.
I think everybody's a little bit different when we're talking about like the environmental part of our addiction, our surroundings, people we're around all
Right.
the time. But there definitely
Yeah.
is a genetic thing there, and they're picking all those out now. They're finding it, and it's coming out. It's just it takes a while. There's just not enough money into looking into it. And
Greg F says, I was taking 4 milligrams of Xanax a day. Now I'm down to a half a milligram. That's awesome. 4 milligrams is a lot, right? That's that's staying pretty much wasted all day long. I'm really glad to hear that, Greg. That's awesome.
Yep.
Really awesome. Greg's been on the boat a long time too.
yeah, man.
If you have at least one parent that is an alcoholic, you have a 50-50 chance of becoming an alcoholic, bipolar or hypochondriac. There are, yeah, if you know, there's a big difference between one parent and both parents. But yes, it's very, very, it definitely has a hereditary element to it.
And something here too, guys, I would like to bring up just because it's something I went through. Anybody, and it's rampant over here, and especially over here in the States. This society is overweight, completely, undoubtedly way overweight, right? So what happens? You get so big like I did, and I end up having bariatric surgery. When you have bariatric surgery, the chances of you becoming an alcoholic afterwards, the chances are so much greater. They tell you this when you go in for your initial appointment. They make you go through classes now before you have the surgery to make you realize that that's actually a big risk, that you can become an alcoholic after the fact. And there's it's not just because stuff sucks into your system real easy. That's part of it, but there's other things that are there also that they discovered now that are pushing you towards that, and you just got to be aware of that. I mean, in other words, you're not going to be able to go to the bar. Most people that had bariatric surgeries, and go in there and just be able to just drink like you used to, and expect that you won't have a problem, because you will.
Right. And it shrinks the stomach, right? I mean, considerably.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a physical element to it as well,
There
right?
is.
Because
Yeah. There's
booze goes through the stomach lining, right?
it absorbs. So, like, just for instance, for me, if I was to drink a shot of vodka, like right now, it would make me drunk. I would be drunk within 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, then that definitely, I can see why people would abuse it. You know, it's becomes an instant drug. Cindy Pardee says, my mother and father were both alcoholics. Both of my sisters are alcoholics, as I am. My 2 cousins are alcoholics. There are people, Cindy, glad that you're here, really. There are people that like to argue that, you have 2 parents who are alcoholics. Chances are the kids saw a lot of it, and it becomes the nurture versus nature. But the further we get along in life, right, the more studies are being done, like the disease thing. 5 years ago, you could debate that till the end of time, because although we knew that people had a very difficult time quitting, and there were obviously symptoms, right? It was obviously things that were going on, but without the ability to do some kind of a test to show the difference between patient A and patient B, it does become something where you just are going to have a debate once that is done. So the same thing is being done right now with studying genes, trying to isolate exactly what the addiction gene is, because as you guys probably know, we have the really cool technology now that they're the CRISPR, right? They can go in and actually remove things like that. So if they could identify it, in theory, they could eliminate it before anybody's born. Just go and make sure that now doesn't mean you won't get wasted every day of your life.
Yep.
Right? You can still do that. You don't have to be addicted to drugs to piss your life away on drugs. You don't. There are people out there who do it solely because they like getting high, and the next thing you know, they've destroyed their lives. You don't have to be a drug addict in order to do that. Your odds of quitting it's much more difficult to quit if you're a drug addict than if you're not, right?
And I want to say this too, guys, if we're able to get the way that we're talking about it being a disease or not, if we're able to get people to understand that is a disease, then they start classifying it as a disease. Guess what happens? They start throwing a bunch of money at it to try to fix it.
Right?
Okay, so what's that going to do for us? It's going to make it better. And, so and that's why you see Tommy immediately get passionate about that, and me also, because we understand
I
it.
thought I stayed calm today.
No,
I was going
you
to
were
pat myself on the back.
You did. That's what I'm saying. But you were passionate. You could tell you were passionate.
No,
about
no
it.
question.
No, and nobody got mad or screamed or yelled, and that's
No.
what I'm saying. It's a passionate conversation, and that's great. That's a good thing. Nobody was booted out of here or anything. We
Right.
all did what we were supposed to do, and that's what we're here for. But at the same time, when we're talking about these things, like that's a big subject. It really truly is. It's a huge deal, because if you could get that to be classified as such, more money and insurance and everything gets
bingo.
pushed towards
insurance now the insurance companies have to step up and pay considerably more than they used to.
Yep.
It really does change a lot of things. And also, look, the thing that kills addicts more than anything else, right, is stigma.
Yep.
We don't want to go out and tell people that we're addicted, because up until very recently, what you get is this: you're an addict, you're weak, right? It's not a disease. It is a defect of character. You're not a good person. That's why you're getting wasted. That's why you continue to get wasted. You're a bad person. Well, that stigma keeps people from saying, they may want to quit, but they're going to try to do it on their own. And you try to quit on your own and you are a drug addict, it's not going to work. It isn't. I mean, that's the reason that this kind of thing is done. Amphetamine stuff, caused me to have a heart attack recently. Amphetamines. I didn't know that, Major, but I'm glad that you're with us, bud.
Yeah, that's when he had his heart attack and had to call. Yeah, I remember that.
I remember the heart attack. I was actually trying to call.
Yeah, you were trying to help.
I was actually trying to call an ambulance for the guy.
Yeah, and that's, I don't know what amphetamine was, but I guess it doesn't matter. We don't need to know.
No, it doesn't, right? It's speed, right? If it takes you up, it takes you up.
Yep.
All amphetamines get your heart going a whole lot faster. I have been taking ivermectin for post stuff. Boy, the guts it takes to say that out loud. I guess you're among family here. No one's gonna freak out on you, but there are places that they do, right?
Yes,
they really like to jump on people for that. It's never made sense to me. I couldn't get my mom to help herself. Oh yeah. What's really interesting too is that there are so many things that you can be addicted to now that have nothing to do with drugs, right? The advent of social media, there are people who have a crippling disorder because they already had the addiction, and social media got in there, and it's hitting the same dopamine receptors as cocaine, right? Every time they get somebody that hits like, or somebody comments back, they get that little dose, And like right now in South Korea, the number one health concern in the entire country is addiction to video games and social media. It's a real thing.
Yep.
It really is. It's a real thing. And we've got companies out there like that dance video platform.
Yeah.
The one of which I speak.
Tiki.
Yeah, exactly. They're actually studying and spending all kinds of money on AI to figure out how to get you just a little bit more strung out, right? How to target you a little bit better. We did a show on this, but they want to figure out how long you will go and hang out without getting a hit of endorphin. And they know exactly what they're going to give you to make that happen. And if you bail off of the platform, they go, crap. Okay, shorten it next time. And this AI actually does this stuff. It's really, really terrifying. All right, peeps, we are at the top of the hour. And I believe this is Friday, isn't it?
Let's can we read Fee's comment there? I'll read it.
Sure.
Can I ask for prayers from my brother in Poland? He is not far from where the boom booms hit. He and his family are missionaries getting ready to leave if need be. Yes, I think that was what we need to do, guys. Please prayer for anybody, especially people that we know, like Fee and her family. That is a very serious issue right now. If it escalates any further, we're all going to be affected. Just so everybody understands that. but that's why she's asking. So yeah, please pray for some safety.
Wow, that's heartbreaking. It really is. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Alrighty, peeps. This is this is our Friday. So we're going to be back not tomorrow, but we will be back on Friday. And who knows? Maybe we'll argue. No, I'm kidding. We'll have a very upbeat show. We've been doing a lot of I've been doing a lot of passionate stuff, so I'm very much looking forward to maybe a couple of laughs. What do you think? But we will be right here, right? Same squirrel time, same squirrel channel. Alrighty, peeps. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass,
Captain Mark Wages.
And this, getting heavier every day, is a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. We love you.